Sabiek and Jengmin were still trapped inside the freezer, but Jengmin had a way to get out of there. There is a manual device that is set to be open from the inside, in case someone gets trapped in the freezer. It seems like the gangsters didn't know about it. They managed to open the door, but when outside the freezer, there were a bunch of gang members lurking around the door. On the other hand, Jadak and his gang member assure Hajin that they would take care of the gang, while he should go save Sabiek. On the way to saving her, he finds two more members on the guard. He had planned on quickly taking care of both of them in one strike without wasting any time on them. Hajin attacks them out of nowhere, but the guy blocks Hajin's attack without much effort. Hajin was shocked to see him blocking his attack so effortlessly. Hajin throws some fast jabs, but none of them were landing on him. He was dodging all his attacks. Hajin was wondering what was going on and who were those guys. This time, the guy was the one who attacks him and Hajin couldn't dodge that. In just one attack, the guy makes Hajin fall back. He was impressed by Hajin as he managed to avoid any critical damage in such a short gap. He introduces himself as Yotaek-young, and the one with him was Choi-in Bim. Hajin was just wondering who were those guys when he reveals that they were on a special mission from the North organization. Hajin was terrified to hear him say that. On the other hand, Jengmin had managed to defeat all of the thugs outside the freezer. Sabiek was shocked and couldn't believe that he beat them all by himself. They make a run for it when someone throws a knife at him which was aimed at Sabiek. Jengmin comes in the way to save her and gets stabbed himself. The one who threw the knife was Yumtong. While Jengmin was distracted by him, one of his men manages to get hold of Sabiek. Jengmin tries to save her, but the other gang member attacks him at the same spot where he was stabbed before. On the other hand, Jadak was losing the battle as they just keep coming in a bunch. There were only a few of them left, and the gangsters' numbers just kept getting larger in time. The gangsters told them to kneel if they didn't want to die, and when Jadak didn't kneel, they attack him again. But before they could attack them, a car comes in the way, and in that car was Hongmi with her bodyguards. She asks them where Sabiek was. She was pissed. Jengmin was unconscious because of the hit earlier, and now there was no one to save her. She asks them why they were doing that to her as she still didn't know about his dad's true identity. Tong told her that her father was a northern spy, and many wanted to kill him. That's why they brought her here as a hostage. But he didn't need her anymore, because her father was already dead. She was in extreme shock after hearing that. The moments with her father start to flood his mind. She didn't believe him. Yumtong orders his men to get rid of her. They were about to inject her with something poisonous when the ceiling above them broke and someone comes down through the ceiling. When Sabiek sees who he was, she couldn't believe it. It was none other than his father, and he was furious at them for making his daughter cry. Before going after Sabiek's father to kill him, Hajin had a meeting with the team leader. The team leader suggests Hajin to save him, as lots of agents owe him, which would help him in the long term. Hajin agrees to save him, but he has one condition. In the present, Sabiek couldn't stop crying seeing her father alive. While they were distracted, Tong attacks her dad with a knife which he receives directly. On the other hand, Hongmi's bodyguards had taken down all the gang members. Jadak asks her if she had seen Hajin. She warns all of his men to be on guard as if was not over just yet. Just then, they notice on the rooftop. On the other side, Sabiek's father was heavily injured and was bleeding all over. He had pointed his gun at them and told them that he would stay back, so let her daughter go. But Sabiek doesn't agree with that. Yumtong calls him pathetic, saying he already knows that the gun was empty. He throws the gun at him and they make a run for it. He didn't have any weapons on him. That's why they had to run. He throws her outside saying the next time they meet they would definitely go to the amusement park, and shuts the door from the inside. He had lost too much blood, and they both couldn't escape that way. She kept slamming on the door to no avail. She remembers what Hajin had told her, to fight back. She starts slamming the door with an iron pipe, hoping it to open somehow. She begs someone to help her. Just then, a mini truck breaks the door. It was Hajin on the truck. He gets off the truck and reminds Sabiek's father that he was supposed to pretend to be dead. On the other side, the ones on the rooftop were those guys who were from the special task force. They suspect that Hajin was cooking something behind the scene. They even suspect that the documents he sent to North were false. But they were curious to see what he does and decide to leave him alone. Hongmi recognizes them back when they were working with his brother and wonders why they were he. Yumtong was angry at Hajin for betraying him and orders his men to attack him. Those men were from the special unit, and they were definitely stronger than the other goons, but they were still no match for Hajin. Yumtong tries to run away, but Sabiek's father comes in the way and knocks him out with just one punch. Hajin compliments him and he was pissed at him because Hajin was the reason he was so weak. Sabiek hugs her father, and Hongmi also comes there, but everything was already over. She demands an explanation from Hajin. Hajin agrees to tell her everything. In the north, the high-rank officer also had suspicions about Hajin's loyalty. They were at the same restaurant where Hajin's sister works. Seeing her, they decide to make him realize why he should be loyal to the north. In the south, Hajin meets Jengmin's dad, a street night group of the Joseon dynasty, the 36th promoter, Kang Hyun-ho, at a PC cafe. While Jengmin was playing a game, he gets a message that Sabiek was almost there. The whole group was supposed to meet there, but for some reason Hongmi and Hajin were late. Jengmin was a little nervous facing Sabiek after that incident. He starts to fight his teammates at the game because they suck at the game. Also, when they told him to look at 3 o'clock, he looks at his phone and was confused as it was 2 o'clock at the time. While he was cursing them, someone hits him from behind. It turns out they were in the same gaming room as he was. When Hajin was going to meet them, the girl who was sharing the house with them scolded him for going out like that. While she was selecting something for him to wear, he asks her if her grandmother was still in the north. She told him that she was saving as much as possible to bring her to the south. After dressing him up, she goes to her part-time job. After that incident, when Hongmi asks Sabiek's father about the situation, he just told him that he met Hajin by chance and came to know that he was Sabiek's friend, so he asked him for help. Hongmi doesn't buy that story. All she could find out about Hajin was that he was a Korean defector. We see that she gave Sabiek's father a new job as her driver. She also erased his past identity and changed his name to Liam. On their way, a guy was driving like crazy and was bothering the others. They block the road and get out of their car and start yelling at someone, blaming him for a car scratch on their new car. The man inside the car was with his child, who was scared. Hongmi gets annoyed and orders Liam to hit their car. In the gaming room, they were trying to pick a fight with Jengmin when Sabiek arrives at the same cafe. Jengmin apologizes to them, but they were not having it and grab him by the shirt. Jengmin grabs his hand and says he would pay for their gaming room. Just by the strength of his grip, the delinquent realizes that he was strong and lets him go. Outside the cafe, Jengmin meets Sabiek and was surprised to see her new look. The news of the road incident was reported on the news as well. After completely messing up their car, when they try to get to her, Liam smashes their faces. She called her lawyer and the goons were charged with a criminal offense for endangering a child. Due to all this, Hongmi was late. Jengmin was nervous talking to Sabiek as he had started to like her. He told her a useless gaming fact that 3 o'clock means east. The atmosphere there was so awkward that he couldn't handle it and made an excuse to go to the washroom. After he was gone, the girls from her class who used to bully her also come there. On the other hand, Hajin was late because he was stopped by the Black Bean Group's executive director, who gives him his 500 million won check that was given to him by Jengmin's father. His father knew about Hajin's identity as a North Korean spy and made a deal with him. For some reason, Jengmin's father wanted to go to North Korea, even though he considers them his enemy. And now all the condition for him to take his sister out of the North was complete. There was 2 ways he could get her out of there. The first was with the help of those who control the city, NIS, the Yongjin Group, and the Black Bean Association. And the second way involved him getting to the north himself. The executive director wanted to confirm he was eligible to do their job. He confirms it by fighting him. At the cafe, the girls were making fun of her for doing her hair and calling her a pervert because of her short skirt. But this time Sabiek wasn't afraid of them and reminds them of what happened last time. The bully couldn't stand her attitude and was going to spill the drink on her. But before she could do that, Jengmin grabs her hand, saying it was her drink. The bully couldn't understand why a loser girl like her was hanging out with someone like Jengmin. They were afraid of Jengmin because he was the only one in the school who could go up against Hajin. As they were leaving, their boyfriends also come there after hearing the commotion. They were the same guys who were trying to mess with Jengmin in the gaming room. They were annoyed seeing him again and started bad-mouthing him. He tries to ignore them because he didn't want to involve Sabiek in all this. The bully girl thought that he might be a coward in real life and was faking all this time. She was planning on getting her revenge on Sabiek this time. When Jangmin decides to leave with Sabiek, the girl grabs her and told her to apologize to her first for hitting her. But instead of apologizing, she throws the drink at her face and then apologizes to her, saying her hand slipped. The guy was pissed and was about to hit her. Just then, Jangmin kicks him in the face and he falls to the ground in one kick. The others attack him as well and he told them to guess his next kick. He somehow manages to change his movement the midway. After beating them all up, he apologizes to everyone at the cafe for any inconvenience by buying them dessert. He makes the bullies apologize to them as well. He asks Sabiek if that was enough, and she nods while smiling. Jangmin was completely blown away by her smile. Somewhere in a poor area, a guy calls an elderly woman and told her that there was some problem with her bank account and that she couldn't use her account for about a year. She begs him to do something about this. He told her that he would help him, but she was to not tell anyone about that. He suggests she cash out all of the money in her account and put the money in some kind of jar outside her house in case of any inspection. And that's exactly what she does. After she was gone, someone comes to her house and takes out the money that was in the jar. We see that the person was none other than Hajin's flatmate, whom he considers his sister. She wanted to take her grandma out of the north, and to do that, it required 100 million won and some extra charges as well. She was planning on getting her out through a woman called Dant, North Korean refugee. Now obviously she didn't have that much money, so Aunt introduces her to somewhere she could make money in a short amount of time. And that's how she got into this job. All she needed to do was to deliver the bags at the given locations. She would get paid 150,000 won just by doing that. The one behind this voice phishing was the president of the Central Boards of Directors, Joe Malduk. One of his delivery tried to run away with the money, so they were educating him about that. When his right-hand man told him that the loss was around 100 million won, he starts beating him. Malduk beat him to the brink of death and ordered his man to sell his organs in the black market to compensate for that. It was Gina's 10th delivery. All she needed to was to put the bag inside the old clothes bin, but the bin was too small for the bag to fit. Suddenly, she sees a rat and was startled by it and falls to the ground. The bag opens and all the money comes out raining. She was shocked to see all that money. On the other hand, Malduk ordered his men to kill anyone who touches his money. Gina was terrified to find herself in that situation. She realizes that it was a voice phishing scam. She tries to report the cops about this when she gets a call from Aunt. She told her that because of the money and the letter she had sent to her grandmother, they were caught. And now if she wanted to take her grandma out of there, she had to get the money now. She told her that she had money. She was determined to save her grandmother no matter what. The guys who were on her watch were eating noodles when they see her running away with the money. They chased her for some time, but they lost sight of her after some time. Malduk was beating them brutally for slacking on the job while making them eat noodles off the ground. His right-hand man reports to him that it wasn't reported to the police and he also disposed of all the devices used in that scam. Malduk orders him to search for the money or he would cut him to pieces. On the other hand, Gina was wondering why those guys hadn't contacted her yet. She hopes that she might get away with this. Just then, we see a thug standing behind her, who attacks her with a hammer. At another place, we see Hajin and Yumtong talking. Hajin was still using Yumtong after that incident. Yumtong asked him why he was doing all this, and he already knows that he was not doing all this to be successful. Hajin doesn't tell him the whole story. He only says that he wanted freedom. On the other side, Jean dodges the attack and pushes him downstairs. But that guy was not alone. Another guy was with him. She tries to shut the door but he catches her before that and throws her onto the floor. They had already searched the whole apartment, and the money was not there. The man orders the other guy to hit her again, and as he was going to do that, some bangs on the door. It was Hajin. After opening the door, he sees inside and his eyes were a hell of suspicious. Those guys were hiding near the door, waiting for him to come inside. Hajin starts saying some random science stuff like which part of the body hurts the most after getting hit there. The pain from that could also give someone a heart attack. He told them he was gonna hit the guy at the right first in the next 5 seconds. The guy on the right was pissed at his cocky attitude and attacked him. He dodges the attack and took care of him first. Before entering the room, He had already seen them on the TV screen. On the other hand, Taiju and his assistant had come to meet Aunt, but she was already gone because her location got leaked. His assistant was planning on bringing his grandmother to the south from the north, but now it was not possible anymore. Oven also arrives there and some men come out of that and they ask them to scram. Hajin goes to Jadok and asks him to put some guys on guard for Gina. Now they interrogate the men who had attacked her. He was furious and asks them to tell him about the sender. On the other hand, Taiju beat all of them up and they realized they were on the same side. Those men were Aunt's men and they thought these two were private loan sharks. The guy told them if they wanted to meet Aunt, they could find her on Mr. Jang's boat at Incheon. It's a private gambling house run by donations, and we see that Hajin was already at the dock. Earlier, Hajin manages to get information out of those guys who told him about the boat. This ship in reality is a big casino. Chinese people also come to gamble here. The guy told him that to get in touch with them, put 140,000 won in a white envelope and write Black Family in Chinese characters. Hajin exactly does what they had told him and he manages to get inside the ship. At the laundromat, the guy asks the other guy why he lied to him. Black Family and 140,000 won in a white envelope was a secret code to kill him. And that's exactly what was happening right now. Hajin realizes that he had been fooled. Duke asks his man if he had found the girl yet. His manager told him that there was a group in Guzan. She might be a member of that gang and was aiming for that money from the beginning. Otherwise, his men would have found her by now. At the ship, Aunt was gambling as well. She lost all her money to a Chinese man and accuses him of cheating. While she was making such a commotion, someone hit her from behind with a rod. It was gambling house ship manager Gonji. He told her if she couldn't pay the money, she have to give her body as collateral. She tries to run away but his men chase her. Outside the ship, when those men were looking for Aunt, someone attacks one of them from behind. On the other hand, Hajin was fighting those goons who wanted to kill him because of the code. The code is used when someone who works on Mr. Jang's ship fails at their job. While they were fighting, one of the thugs traps Hajin inside a net. While he was trying to get himself out, they attack him all at once. As they were about to attack him, someone grabs one of the goons from behind and slams him onto the ground. It was none other than Taiju. They recognize each other and were wondering what the other person was doing there. Jadok goes to bring Gina from her friend's house. Another girl opens the door who knew Jadok as he had saved her from a dog that morning. Gina also comes there, told him that Hajin had told him that he would come there himself to take her, and asks him how she could believe him. Jadok told him that he was Hajin's classmate. They were speechless to know he was in high school. Just then he gets a call from his gang, who told him that those men had escaped from there. They reported the incident to Duke. They told him about their location and also that they were a gang of a bunch of high school students. Duke orders his manager to gather all the men. After helping Hajin in taking care of those goons, Taiju was leaving. Hajin stops him and asks him if he was also looking for Aunt and he proposes an offer. The ship manager was torturing Aunt for running away. As they couldn't sell her body because she was old, they wanted to sell her eyes. They decided to take her eyes out once the typhoon stopped. Just then, one of his guys come there running and told him that someone was causing a commotion at the ship and was beating all the goons. He told him about the white letter. The ship manager asks him how many guys were there, to which he replies only one. Earlier Hajin had made a deal with Taiju. He proposes that he was gonna cause commotion, and in the meantime, Taiju was to search for Aunt. That was the fastest way to find her. While Hajin was fighting, Taiju manages to locate Aunt, who was being tortured. They misunderstood him with Hajin and start yelling at him. In an instant, Taiju took care of both of them. The ship manager couldn't even keep up with his speed. As he was about to curse him, Taiju slams him onto the floor before he could finish his sentence. The other guy just stood there trembling, not being able to even move. Aunt was relieved to see someone saving her, but Taiju punches her as well. He starts beating her brutally, asking her about his assistant's mother. His assistant stops him and they take her with them. In the hallway, the whole hallway was filled with bodies, and the one behind all this was Hajin. They threatened to kill him and told him to surrender. He gets a call from Taiju, who told him that they had secured Aunt. One of the thugs gets pissed at him for ignoring them midway. Hajin takes his down and suggests the rest of the guys surrender if they wanted to live. They drop their weapon and make a way for him to pass. They took Han to Yumtong's factory for interrogation. Yumtong doesn't know what was going on and suggested if they were going to kill her, he could mince the meat at that factory. Taiju asks Hajin why he was wasting his time like that. They both were looking for money and Hajin assures him they would get their money. But before that, he asks her the whereabouts of those voice phishing groups and was furious at them for messing with Gina. On the other hand, Duke had gathered all his men and was going to the laundromat himself. Ann told him that his nickname was Joe Steak. He looks like a healthy businessman on the outside, a guy who runs a moving center. Using personal information that he collects through the moving center, he does voice phishing. With the money he earns, he leads his own organization. Jadok was angry at his members for letting those goons escape. The other members ask him why they had to get involved in such a dangerous situation for Hajin. Jadok scolds them and they say that they would follow him anywhere. Just then, a car comes crashing into the laundromat, breaking everything. The meat factory. Yumtong remembers something after hearing the name Just Steak. He told Hajin that he was a member of the North organization. He was 100% sure that he was from the North. Taiju says he doesn't care who he was, and asked him to hand over onto him. They wanted to take someone out of the North themselves, so Hajin makes a deal with him to get both of them what they wanted. He proposes a plan to use Ant to get them out of North. He asks her if she still had contacts in Korea, even though she was broke now. She replies in the affirmative but asks them for money to do that. Taiju gets angry at her but Hajin stops him, asking him to let him handle this and he would take that person out that they wanted. He gets a call from one of the leaders of the Gyuzin gang, who told him that the laundromat was messed up. When Hajin arrives there, he sees that the laundromat was completely destroyed, and they also took Jadok with them as a hostage. They demand 100 million won to save him and 100 million settlement money. They gave them the location the deal was supposed to happen in the next 3 days. After 3 days, they arrived at the given address. The manager was surprised at how a bunch of high schoolers managed to collect 200 million won. Jadok says he was sure that Hajin would come to save him, but what he saw surprised them. Hajin was not there. Instead, he came to meet the boss directly. He thinks that he is a delivery boy, but when he says that he came here to pay his debt, Joe Steak was surprised. He acknowledges Hajin's talent, how he left his friend behind to use him as a pawn to get to him, to which Hajin replies that he didn't leave him behind, he just sent someone else to retrieve him, and that someone else was known other than Taiju. The manager thinks that he was Hajin and asks him for the money, but he sees that he doesn't have anything on him. He gets pissed and orders his man to attack him. Taiju slams his face to the ground before he could even get off the van. And now the manager orders all his men to come out, and we see that they were hiding in the cars all this time. But Hajin had already anticipated that it would be a tough fight and had made a plan accordingly. The manager of the ship was still searching for Hajin and Taiju, and while he was scolding his men, Taiju and his assistant come there on a bike and gaslight them into following him. And now both gangs were in the same area. The manager recognizes the group and thought that they were Taijuro's backup. The other gang also thought they had been owed and Joe Steak was behind him. The manager of the ship asks Joe Steak's group if they were declaring war against their group. The manager blames them for it and he gets angry. The ship manager orders his men to attack them, and Joe Steak's gang attacks as well. And that's how the battle begins. At Joe Steak's office, Joe was trying to call his men but they weren't answering the call. Just then, comes flying into his office through the door, breaking it. It was Yumtong and his men, who had already taken care of all his goons outside. Now it was only him remaining. On the other hand, the battle between the gangs got really intense. The manager was wondering how did it come to this. His only goal was to beat up some high school kids. So how it ended up in an all-out battle instead. While all of this was happening, Taiju and his assistant were watching all this from a safe distance. They had also reported the incident to the police, and they were here as well. Now their job to lure them was done. Hajin didn't say anything about saving Jadok, so they leave him there. On the other hand, Yome's members attack Joe Steak, but he was beating them brutally. He was a menace. He defeated Yumtong in just one hit as well. Hajin kicks him, but he doesn't even flinch and grabs his leg and slams him onto the floor. Hajin somehow manages to escape from his grab and attacks his hand, but Joe Steak manages to free himself from that also. Hajin says that he was strong, as expected from someone from the special unit. Joe Steak was shocked to hear that. Hajin told him that he was from the north as well, but he doesn't believe him. Joe asks him why he was after him when they were on the same side. Earlier when Hajin met the team leader and made a plan to make the North throw him away. And to do that he was using Aunt to get his family to defect out of the North, making it look like he was planning on betraying the North. The other two guys received the message that No 47 Joe Stake was trying to betray them, and they were to get rid of him. They had another order as well, so they sent Hajin to take care of him. After getting beaten up by him the first time, now Hajin was overpowering him, but he was from the Special Task Force, and wasn't an easy target. He frees himself from Hajin's grab and uses a sharp wood to stab Yumtong and runs away. He was thinking that it would buy him some time to escape while he takes go of his friend. He also had some money with him, but Hajin follows him anyway. Joe steals someone's scooter and runs on it, but Hajin still didn't stop to pursue him. Hajin lured him into a corner. He tries to stop and falls to the ground. Hajin pushes him down the stairs, and now he couldn't even stand. Hajin takes the bag and sees it was full of money. Just then, the Special Tasks officers also come there. They take the bag and compliment him on capturing him, even though there was such a huge weight gap. He was impressed by Hajin's work and asked him to join the Special Forces. That's exactly what Hajin was planning from the start.